How to stay emotionally close to adult children, even when they're far away. It happens slowly. One day you're picking up your child from school, reminding them not to forget their jacket. The next, you're watching them pack a suitcase, board a plane, or sign a lease far from home. And they're still your child, but life has stretched the space between you. Not just in miles, but in rhythm, in how they move through the world now, in the way their voice sounds through a phone instead of across a dinner table. It's not that they don't love you, they do, and you love them, sometimes with more intensity now than you did when they were small. But there's this ache, a quiet one, the kind you don't talk about much because you're proud of them, because you want them to feel free, because you don't want to be that parent who clings too tightly. And yet deep down, you miss the closeness, the way they used to tell you everything, the way you felt woven into their everyday life. Now you get highlights, snippets, maybe a weekly call, maybe less. You ask how they're doing and they say fine, but you know there's more beneath the surface. Joys and struggles they're carrying that you're not part of. And it hurts, in that soft, silent way only a parent can feel. Not because you're being shut out, but because the rhythm has changed, and you're still learning the new steps. This is the unspoken truth of parenthood. It doesn't end when your kids become adults. It evolves, and that evolution can be beautiful, but only if we meet it with intention, grace, and a willingness to change with it. You can't hold them the way you used to. You can't fix things with a hug and a bedtime story, but you can still stay close. You can still be the steady presence they return to, the voice they trust, the heart they know will always make space for them. This is about more than staying in touch. It's about staying connected, emotionally, soulfully, even when they live in another city, even when their lives look nothing like yours, even when the world seems to be pulling them in every direction except back toward you. And if that's something your heart is craving, to stay close without crowding, to love without holding too tight, then you're exactly where you need to be. Let's talk about how that kind of closeness is not only possible, it's still yours to grow. There's a moment every parent reaches, quiet and deeply personal, when you realize your child no longer needs you in the same way. They're not looking to you for answers anymore. They're not depending on your schedule, your routines, or your approval to shape their life. They're making choices. Some you agree with, some you don't, but they're theirs now, and that's what you raised them to do. Still, letting go is no small thing. It's one of the most misunderstood acts of love. People think it's about cutting ties or pulling away. But the truth is, letting go doesn't mean disappearing. It means loosening your grip so they can grow, and loving them enough to do it even when it breaks your heart a little. Letting go is allowing your child to become someone new, while still believing they'll carry the best of you inside them. It's trusting that the foundation you built, the values, the love, the late-night talks and early morning routines is still there, even if they don't reference it out loud. It's stepping back, not out. And it's not passive. It's deeply active. It takes strength to hold your tongue when they make decisions differently than you would. It takes wisdom to know when to speak and when to simply listen. It takes maturity to support without steering. You might not be their manager anymore, but you can be their anchor. You don't need to know every detail of their daily life to be close. What matters now is presence over proximity, emotional honesty, over control, and showing them that your love never came with strings, only roots. So let go, yes. Let them become who they're meant to be. But don't mistake that for loss, because when you let go with grace, what grows in its place is something even deeper. Trust, respect, a bond not of dependence, but of enduring love. And that kind of connection, it can stretch across any distance. You don't need grand gestures to stay close. In fact, with adult children, the big moments often matter less than the small ones that feel real. That text you send just to say you were thinking of them, that inside joke you still share, that short voicemail, even if they don't call back right away. Those little "I saw this and thought of you" moments, they add up. Love doesn't always need a spotlight. It just needs repetition. Consistency builds trust. It says, "I'm here," even when they're too busy to say it back. It shows them that your love doesn't depend on how much they reciprocate. It simply is. Sometimes they won't respond. Sometimes they'll seem distant. But don't confuse that with disinterest. Life pulls hard at adult children. Jobs, relationships, bills, stress. And sometimes the safest people, like parents, get the least of them. Not because they don't care, but because they know your love is strong enough to hold them even when they're quiet. So keep showing up. Even if it's small. Send a text without expecting a reply. Share a memory from their childhood that made you smile. Send a picture of the family dog. Ask how their day was, and be okay if they only give a one-word answer. You're not doing it for applause. You're doing it because love shows up even when it's not returned in full. And here's the surprising thing, those small touches, they're not small at all. They become part of the emotional landscape your child lives in. They create a steady presence they can come back to when the world feels overwhelming. They remind them, "I'm not alone. You don't need to be perfect. You just need to be there." Because love isn't measured by volume. It's measured by presence. And your presence, kind, gentle, steady, is the most powerful gift you can keep giving. Even across miles. Even across silence. Even when you feel like you're speaking into a void. They feel it more than they say. So keep planting seeds. Keep reaching out. Keep being the person who shows up without condition. That's how connection stays alive. One quiet heartbeat at a time. There's a moment in every parent's journey when you look at your adult child and realize, they're living a life I don't fully recognize. Different pressures, different routines, a different world really. Their relationships are more complex. Their work is more demanding. They have commitments and responsibilities you never had at their age. Or if you did, they looked completely different. And if we're being honest, sometimes it feels like you're speaking two different emotional languages. You ask, "How are you doing?" They say, "Fine." You want to dive deep. They just want to breathe. You long to connect like you used to. They just want to get through the week. It can feel like a wall. But often it's just a translation problem. Staying emotionally close isn't about forcing them into your rhythm. It's about learning theirs and meeting them where they are. That means paying attention not just to what they say, but how they say it. Noticing the times they open up, even if it's in a quick voice message or a meme they send without context. That's their way of reaching out. It may not look like a heart-to-heart around the kitchen table, but in their world, it's a sign of connection. It also means adjusting how you express your emotions. Sometimes saying "I miss you" feels heavy to them. But "it made me smile when I saw this old photo of us" can be received as warmth, not pressure. Sometimes "I'm proud of you" lands more softly than "why don't you call more?" Even when the longing is the same, emotional closeness doesn't require constant conversation. It requires intentional communication and a willingness to understand the way they give and receive love now. They may not always speak your language fluently anymore, but with enough care and curiosity, you can learn to speak theirs. And when you do, that's when the connection deepens. Not because it went back to what it was, but because it grew into something more honest, more mutual, more resilient. It's one of the hardest balances to strike as a parent. Being available without being overbearing, loving without hovering, staying close without clinging. Because your heart, it still wants to be right there with them. But part of respecting their adulthood means offering space, not as punishment or withdrawal, but as a gift, as a sign of trust, as a quiet way of saying, "I believe in who you're becoming and I don't need to control it." But giving space doesn't mean disappearing. It means becoming a quieter kind of presence. One that doesn't demand attention, but welcomes it. One that waits, not anxiously but faithfully. One that says, "You don't have to call every day, but when you do, I'll be fully here." Think of yourself like a lighthouse. You don't chase the ships. You don't shout into the storms. You just stay steady, visible, trustworthy. And when they need direction, when they're ready to come close again, you're right where they remembered you. Being present in this chapter might look like leaving a light on when they visit, even if it's rare, sending them a letter without expecting a reply, showing up for their milestones, and being okay with a backseat role. Listening more than advising, unless they ask for guidance. It's in the quiet, steady presence that emotional safety is built. Not through control, but through consistency. Not by pulling, but by inviting. And ironically, the more space you allow, the more likely they are to step back into connection. Because love that doesn't suffocate, that kind of love is magnetic. So give them room to breathe. And in that open space, be the one they always know they can return to with no guilt, no resentment, no performance. Just love, still here, still listening, still home. It's easy to fall into a pattern when talking to your adult child, asking how their work is going, if they've eaten, if they've been sleeping enough. You want to stay involved, stay supportive, stay connected. But sometimes, all those questions, though filled with love, can start to feel one-sided, like an interview, like a checklist, like the parent is still doing all the watching while the child lives the story. What many adult children actually crave, but don't always know how to ask for, is to see you as a whole person too. Not just the parent who raised them, but the you that still laughs, still dreams, still struggles, still lives a rich inner life. They want to feel connected, not just to your care, but to your humanity. Because let's be honest, when we were younger, we didn't always see our parents as full people. But now, as roles shift and time passes, your adult child has the capacity to form a new kind of relationship with you, if you let them in. That means telling your stories, sharing what you've been reading, learning, or thinking about, talking about the silly thing that happened at the grocery store, confessing that you've been feeling a bit lonely lately, or a bit hopeful or a bit uncertain, letting them see that you're still growing too. Because emotional closeness thrives in mutuality. When connection isn't just built on you asking, and them answering, but on a shared exchange of what's real, what's vulnerable, what's alive. And here's the beautiful part. When you share your life, even in small ways, it gives them permission to share theirs. Not because you pried, but because you invited. So don't be afraid to bring yourself into the conversation. Not the polished parental version, but the honest, evolving one. The one they might not know yet, but could grow to love deeply, and even relate to more than you think, because you're not just their parent. You're a person worth knowing, still, always. Technology can be frustrating. It can feel cold. It can feel impersonal. And let's be honest, sometimes it feels like a wall more than a window. Especially when you send a heartfelt message and get a thumbs up emoji in return. Or when you finally learn how to FaceTime and they only have 5 minutes to talk. But here's the truth. Technology is not the problem. The connection is still real. It just looks different than it used to. You might remember conversations that happened at the dinner table. Now they happen through a screen. You used to write notes and stick them in lunch boxes. Now it's a text with a heart emoji. Different, yes, but still meaningful. The key is to shift from resisting the method to embracing the message. If a meme makes them laugh and opens the door to a conversation, use it. If texting, "Good morning, love you," every few days makes them feel seen, do it. If they post something on social media and you comment something kind, not overbearing, just warm, it matters. And don't underestimate the power of short videos, voice notes, or shared playlists. These aren't just digital distractions. They're modern forms of affection. They're ways of saying, "I know what your world looks like and I want to be part of it, even from here." And if learning new technology feels intimidating, just remember, you learned how to raise a human. You adapted to more changes than most people will ever know. You can learn this too. Ask them to teach you. Let them show you the apps they love. Let them feel needed in the process. Because building emotional closeness sometimes begins with practical teamwork. And sharing a laugh as you try to find the unmute button together can be a moment of intimacy all on its own. Don't let the e-wife screen fool you. What matters is on the other side of it. Love still travels, connection still forms, And even if their world moves fast, you can still be part of it, with a little patience, a little flexibility, and a whole lot of heart. This isn't about staying current, it's about staying connected. And yes, you can absolutely do both. It's one of the quiet truths of parenting that no one prepares you for. Your child becomes someone you didn't raise, and that's not a bad thing. In fact, it means you did your job. They grew, they changed, they made choices, they gathered experiences you weren't part of. They learned lessons the hard way. They built values and opinions that might differ from your own. And now, they're standing in front of you. Not as a version of who they were, but as a full, evolving human being. But sometimes, it's hard to let go of the memory. It's hard to stop picturing them as the teenager who needed guidance, or the little one who held your hand at the store, or the college student who still called you to ask how to cook rice. It's hard to stop loving the child inside them, even as you try to love the adult they've become. But staying emotionally close means doing exactly that. It means choosing to see them clearly in the present, not through the lens of nostalgia, not through the filter of who they used to be, but as they are right now. It means not correcting the way they live if it looks different from yours. It means not longing so loudly for the past that you miss the gift of the current relationship. It means loving them even when their choices baffle you, trusting them even when you worry, respecting them even when you do things differently, because nothing deepens connection like being fully accepted. Adult children need to know they're loved not for how well they reflect your values, or how often they call, or how closely their lives resemble your dreams for them, but for exactly who they are today. When they feel that kind of love, they come back. Maybe not right away, maybe not with big emotional confessions, but they feel it. And slowly, they open up in return. So honor the memory, but don't cling to it. There's a new version of your child to get to know. And if you're willing to meet them where they are, you might just discover that the bond you've been missing isn't gone. It's simply waiting to be built again, one honest moment at a time. The truth is, love changes shape. It doesn't always look like phone calls every day or long visits during the holidays or heart-to-hearts at the kitchen table. It grows quieter, more spacious. Sometimes it shows up as a text that says, "Thinking of you." Sometimes it's just knowing they're out there, living their life, and knowing you helped give them the wings to fly. Emotional closeness with an adult child isn't about holding on. It's about staying open to new rhythms, open to becoming a friend, not just a parent, open to being a safe place, not a voice of constant advice, open to giving without needing to be needed in return. You've already done the hard work. You raised them. You showed up. You loved through the chaos. Now your role isn't smaller, it's different. It's wiser, softer, stronger in all the ways that don't need to shout. And yes, it takes courage. It takes courage to love without always being the center of their world. It takes courage to send the message even when they don't reply. To keep showing up, even when you feel forgotten. To choose connection over control. To choose presence over performance. But here's what I hope you remember. You are still part of their life story. Your voice, your love, your belief in them, it still echoes. Even when you're far away. Even when they don't say it. Even when the world feels like it's moving on. So keep planting seeds, keep showing up, keep offering love in the language they understand today. The bond will look different now, but it can still be beautiful. It can still be deep. It can still grow, not in spite of the distance, but because of the love that bridges it. And that love, it's still yours to give, and still theirs to feel.